Hello, this is K.Jolie with Crochet Basics, and in this episode we're going to do some fan art. It's fall, winter is coming and all that, and for the public schools here, you are allowed to wear your costumes to school for Halloween. You are not allowed to wear a full face mask or a hood. As far as, the school is concerned, of course, we're still in the pandemic, so we're still all wearing like the surgical masks or, the masks that cover our nose and mouth. All right, so I thought, why not make a Spider-Man hat, a little fan art. Haven't done a fan art one in a while. What you need is Spider-Man colors, really. So red, blue, okay, and then a little bit of white for the eyes. Either black or blue for the outline of the eyes. So that's, that's your choice, of course. And I'm using Karen, and I'm using Red Heart Super Saver. Size 4, medium weight, it's worsted weight. Okay, and I'm going to go in an H hook, which is a US size H8. It's a 5.millimeter size hook, and you need a scrap yarn in a contrasting color, so not red or blue, a different color. And that we're only going to use for the beginning of the pattern itself. And a yarn needle or a tapestry needle works just as good. You want a needle with a long eye so that you can get the yarn in and weave in or sew. A scissor, as usual. A tape measure is always welcomed. I tell you all the time, it's always welcomed when we're working with yarn for sizing, to make sure we're getting it right. All right, so with that being said, let's get this going. Okay, so starting in the red, have your scrap yarn stitch marker ready. All right, and if you do a slip knot, I don't, you can do a slip knot or a magic ring. I wasn't taught that way, so I don't do that. I do a little crossover on my hook, and I'm pretty much satisfied with that. You're going to do your slip knot or your magic ring. You'll chain 2, 1, 2, and in that second chain from the hook, you're going to work 6 single crochets, and you're going to work around your tail so that we can tighten that loop up. So row 1 is 6 single crochets. Okay, so now we'll tighten that loop up. And we'll add in our scrap yarn right in between your first chain and your last single crochet. Okay, so for row 2, we're going to work 2 single crochets in every stitch all the way around, and you should end up with 12. So here there's no slip stitching or chaining. We're just going to work our stitches for now. Okay, so 2 single crochets in each all the way around, and you'll end up with 12 on this increase for row 2. All right, so that's 12. So now for row 3, we're going to increase again. Okay, so now for row 3, we're going to go in the blue. But you're not cutting off or anything. We're just going to add the blue in. So what you're going to do here is you're going to slip stitch. Okay, slip stitch into that stitch, that first stitch from this row, from row 2. Okay, and now your chain 1 is going to be in blue. So we're going to chain 1 in the blue, and we're going to pull everything nice and tight. But don't cut anything off. Okay, I'm going to show you a trick. Okay, so you're going to go right back in to where you just did and do a single crochet. Okay, so you're going to go in and do 2 single crochets in that first spot, in that first stitch. Okay, you'll do 1 single crochet in the next, and you'll repeat that for the row, doing 2 in the first one and 1 stitch in the next. And you should end up with 18 single crochets for row 3. Okay. Now we're going to feed up our red, okay, because we're going to switch back to red. So what you're going to do is you're going to do a slip stitch, but you're going to do it around your red, all right? So you want to pull your red in front of your blue, all right? And you'll go in and you'll slip stitch in your blue, and then you'll chain 1 in your red, and you'll pull that blue nice and tight. All right, so this is what that looks like from the back. So here's our red right here that we just fed up. Here's our slip, and now we're working in the red. So it gets a little, your yarn will get a little tangled as you're working with this, but not terribly, and you can always untwist them if it gets to be too much. Okay, so now for row 4, you're going to do 2 single crochets in the first stitch, okay? 2 single crochets in the first and 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches. And then you'll repeat that for the row, and you should end up with 24 stitches. I hope you're getting what I'm saying here. Alright, so now we're going to slip stitch again. So you'll pull your blue up behind your yarn, behind the red, hold it in place, and you're going to slip stitch in your red and chain 1 in your red. Alright, but you're pulling the blue up, so you're securing it from the back is really what you're doing. So that'll keep it, it's just a little trick for when you do stripes. Not too many stripes, you know, like 2 rows of stripes or something, then it's fine. You don't want to do too much more than like say like 2 or 3 rows with the feeding up of the yarn, because then it will start to show through. You know, it just sometimes that happens. Okay, so now we're in row 5 and we're going to increase again. We're going to increase to 30 stitches. So you're going to do 2 single crochets in the first. We're still in the red, so 2 single crochets in the first, and then 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitches, and you'll repeat the increase for the row. So you'll repeat that pattern, that stitching combo for the row. And you should end up with 30 stitches for row 5. Okay, so we're going to do that little trick again. We're going to pull up our blue for row 6, and we're going to slip stitch behind. You're going to slip stitch in your red, and then you'll chain 1 in your blue. And you'll pull your red nice and tight. Okay? So now for row 6, we're going to start doing something special. Okay? So we're going to do a spike stitch. Now normally with a spike stitch is you work down, not on the row where you are, but a row down, 2 rows down, sometimes 3 rows down. Okay, when you work a spike stitch, normally you do not work the stitch up top. Okay, you do not. But for this, we're increasing, so we are going to work that stitch up top and then a stitch down below. All right, so you'll work your first single crochet regular. All right, and then you're going to go down, push through. You're going down 2 rows to where your blue is. All right, and you're going to grab your yarn, pull up, and pull through. Now with the spike stitch, you want it to be snug. You don't want it to be tight because it will cinch up your other rows and your item will become puckered. All right, so you don't want that. You want it to be smooth. You want enough yarn here so that it lays flat and not puckered. Okay? And you don't want it too loose because then it could get snagged. You know, it could get snagged up and all that. All right, so we're going to do this for the row. So we got 2, and then you'll work 1 in the next 4 stitches, and then another spike, a single and a spike, your increase. All right, so we got 2. So in the next one over, because we are increasing, we're using our spike stitch to increase and also for the pattern, you know, to make the design. All right, so you'll do 1 in the next 4 stitches, 1 single crochet regular in the next 4 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Then in this one, we're going to increase again. So you'll do a single, and then you'll go all the way down to your blue, and you'll pull up. And you'll repeat this for the row, and we're on row 6, and you should end up with 36 stitches. Okay, so that's what the start of that looks like. So you'll notice you're actually doing your spike stitch into the first increases from the blue row, from row 3. Okay, so now here we're going to do our slip stitch again. So you'll pull your red up in front of the blue, you'll do your slip stitch in the blue and change to the red. Pull your blue nice and tight. Okay, so this is what that looks like so far. So here's where the red went around the blue. Okay. All right, I hope you're still with me. I hope you're still with me here. All right, so now we're on, let's see, we did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're on row 7, so we're going to increase again. So you're going to do 2 single crochets in the first, and we're working with the red. So 2 single crochets in the first stitch, and then 1 single crochet in the next 5 stitches, and you'll repeat this increase for the row, and you should end up with 42 stitches. So 42 stitches for row 7, and then we'll do our little trick here where we slip stitch around our blue so that we're feeding it up. And then chain 1, we're still in the red on this one. Alright, so now for row 8 we're going to increase again. So you're going to do 2 single crochets in the first stitch, and then 1 single crochet in the next 6 stitches, and you'll repeat that for the row, and you should end up with 48 single crochets. So now a little side note or tip or trick or whatever. You can see where your increases are. Okay, so with the blue you can see where the increases are. So when you're working, your increases are going into the same spot. All right, for each row. We just finished row 8. And we're switching back to the blue again. So you'll move your blue in between your red to do your slip stitch. You'll slip stitch in your red and chain 1 in the blue. Okay. So see, I'm getting a little twisted, but not terrible, you know. And you can always untwist it. Not a big deal. All right. So now we're doing in the blue, and we're going to do our increase with our spike stitch yet again. All right. So in the first one, you'll do 1 single crochet and then a spike stitch. And you want to try and aim. It's going to, the spike stitch isn't going to move as far as, you know, like here. But because of the increases, it'll start to go, like it might start to go a little bit on an angle, which is fine. This is not supposed to be like a total squared off. You know, it's supposed to look like, it's supposed to mimic spider web. Okay, that's the whole point of Spider-Man. He wears spider webs. Okay, so we'll do our 1 single crochet, our spike stitch, and in the next one over, because we're still increasing, we're on row 9. So we'll do 1 single crochet in the next 7 stitches, and then you'll repeat with the single and the spike. Okay, and you should end up with 54 stitches at the end of this row. So now if you're new to me and you haven't, please subscribe. Okay, I do have other patterns, other tutorials and things of that nature. Alright, so this is what it looks like so far. And if you needed it smaller, say for like a 2-year-old, you would go to a G-hook, okay, for that. Alright, so we're going to do our slip stitch, pull up our red, do our slip stitch around it, and then chain 1 in the red. So I hope you're getting the hang of that. So that goes for, like, you know, if you're doing small stripes and stuff, that works out perfect. You know, who wants to cut off for every row, weave in, boo boo, you know, it's like silliness, right? So it just works out really good this way. As far as, you know, once you get the hang of it, you know, securing the stitches in the back and everything, it gets easier. Alright, so we're going to increase again. I'm going to pull everything nice and tight and increase, and we're working in the red. So now we're on row 10. So you should be at 54 stitches at this point. Yeah. Okay, so now for row 10, you'll go in and you'll do your increase, 2 single crochet in the first stitch, and then 1 single crochet in the next 8, and you'll repeat the increase. Okay, so that's 60, and that's for row 10, and so we'll do our little trick here and slip stitch around our blue and chain 1 in the red. We're still working in the red on this. For row 11, we're not going to increase. We're just going to work 1 single crochet all the way around, and you should end up with 60 stitches again. Alright, so now we'll pull up the blue for our slip stitch. And chain 1 in the blue. Pull everything nice and tight. Okay, so this is what your piece should look like so far. We just finished row 10. No, we didn't. We just finished row 11. I'm sorry. Okay, so we just finished row 11. And just to give you a measurement, flat, it should be about 6 inches across. All right. Now, just so you know, if you're working, you know, a hat or something in the round, you know, like this, just if you wanted to check your progress, do a row of single crochet in there, just to check your sizing and, you know, your progress and stuff. And also it'll help, you know, start to get the curvature of the hat, you know, so that it becomes, you know, a hat. All right. So now for row 12, we're going to increase again, and we're doing it in the blue. So we're going to do our spike stitch, our fancy spike stitch increase. So in the first, you're going to do your single crochet, and you can try and line up to where your spike stitch is. Like, you can go right through it. It's not, you know, down here, you're just lining it up for up top, you know, for the effect in general. All right, so we'll do 2 in the first, 1 regular, 1 spike, and then 1 in the next 9 stitches, and then we'll repeat with the spike. All right, so I hope you're still with me. I hope you're liking making this, or you know, even like learning something, or like, you know, refreshing your brain or something for something, you know. I hope I inspire, you know. Well, I hope. Okay. So 1 in the next 9 stitches, and we're in row 12, and you should end up with 66 single crochets for this row. Okay, so you should have 66 for row 12. All right, and then we'll do our little trick with securing our next color. And then chaining 1 in our new color, in our red. Okay, so now for the next 2 rows, you're just going to work 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way around, and remember to feed up the other color. It's row 13 and 14 is 1 single crochet in each, and it should be 66 stitches all the way around. And let's see, and I've got approximately 6.5 across, 6.5 inches across at this point. Okay, so you can pause here. If you're working it along with me, you can pause here, and then we'll meet up for row 15. That was the end of row 14 for me. So I'm going to switch back. I'm going to do my slip and my chain, okay, with securing the blue. So slip in red and chain in blue. Okay. So now we're not going to increase here. Well, so you're just going to work the spike stitch and not the spike stitch and the single crochet in where we've been. All right, so we're going to start out with a spike for this first stitch. Zoom in real tight here. So now if you hold your hand here, this is the stitch we're skipping. So this is where you're going to go into after we do the spike stitch. Just a little trick to keep your place. All right, so we're going to start out with a spike. Okay. And then 1 single crochet, and I think they should be about 10 to 12 stitches apart, but you'll just do your spike stitch where, because we're not increasing now, so you'll just do your spike stitch where your previous spike stitch is. Okay, so if your count's a little different from mine, that's okay, you know, just as long as, you know, it's keeping, you're keeping it, you know, more or less in line. Okay, so here I have it, it's on my 12th stitch, I think it is, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So on my 12th stitch is my spike stitch. Yours might be a little over, you know, by 1, and that's okay, you know, at this point. It's just as long as you're getting your spike stitch where, you know, it's more or less matching up to your previous spike stitches. Alright, and then we're not going to go in and work this one, we're going to go into the next one. So you'll pull up your red, you'll slip around it, and then chain one of the red. So we're just going to repeat this. Now, if you are working this along with me, you can pause here and work your rows. And then we'll start working the eyes. One thing I do like about this pattern is that it really makes it easy to count the rows. Just so you know, one thing about this pattern, it makes it super easy. Okay, so now from here, you're just going to continue working on without the increases. Okay, so you're going to repeat row 15, 16, and 17. So you're just going to keep repeating those 3 rows, you know, 2 rows of red, 1 row of blue. And you're going to work down to approximately 33 rows, you know, grand total, row 33. So now I finished mine. So what I did here was I worked 30 rows regular. And just to give it a little bit extra, I did 2 more rows. I did 1 last row in the red, and then a final row in the blue. Okay? And so I did 32 rows. Now this is making mine for not a grown-up, like a kid. So mine's going to be a little bit shorter. You can go do a full, you know, set of 3 stitches. And I have a length of about 7.5 inches. Okay, I have a length of about 7.5 inches. You probably want to go to about a full 8 inches just to, you know, have the movement and stuff. And if it's for an older child or an adult, go up a hook size. Go to an I. Okay? And this was the first one that I did, just to show you. And I did this one in a G. So this is really like maybe it's size for like a 2-year-old or a 4 to 6-year-old. Okay, but go up a hook size, you know, for a bigger person. Do a couple, you know, do another row to 3 rows. I had it in my mind that I was going to end in the blue, so I really wanted to end in the blue. That's why I added, you know, I skipped 1 row of red and I just did the last row in blue. All right, now let's do the eye. And I'm going to tell you right now, the eye is gonna be one of the wackiest things. Most of the eye, all right, you need white for the eye. I'm doing the eye in a G hook, which is a G8 blah blah blah, a G6. It's a 4.0mm sized hook, and you also need black for the eye to outline it. Usually Spider-Man has his eyes are outlined in black, and it doesn't really matter if it's from the movies or from the comic books or whatever it is. Okay, but usually his eyes are outlined in black. So, but you can do it in blue or dark gray, you know, whatever, of course. Okay, with that being said, you don't have to do this eye. You can get white felt sheets with, you know, or a black felt sheet with the white felt sheet and cut out, you know, your shapes and sew them on, glue them on, whatever you got to do. Would be a lot easier than doing the eyes that I'm going to show you. And a lot of this is just shaping, but it it comes out kind of crazy. But just to show you, this was the first eye that I did, and I had lined it in black, and yeah, that wasn't so great. Okay, so that was one eye I did, and then I see on the drawings of Spider-Man that sometimes he has like octagon shaped or like hexagon shaped, like stretched out, you know. So I said, all right, I'll give that a shot, and so I did this eye, and yeah, nah, not so good for this particular. Okay, and then I came up with this one. And this one works, you know, as far as shaping, this one works. But this one to work up is like, whew. Okay, but I'll show you anyway, and we'll go from there. All right, so you're going to make 2 of these, and we're in the G hook. All right, so if you do a slip knot, I do not, so, but do your slip knot. Okay. Are you ready? Are you ready for some crazy? All right, so you're going to chain 2, 1, 2. And in that second chain from the hook, you're going to work 4 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And you'll pull that tight, okay? Okay. All right, so you'll chain 1 and turn your work. So now for row 2, you're going to work 2 single crochets in the first. So 2 in the first, 1 in the next, and you're going to crochet the next 2, the last 2 stitches together. Okay, so you'll go in, pull up a loop, you'll go into the next stitch, and you'll pull up a loop, and then you'll put them together. Okay? Wait, let me fix that. Okay, so you'll go in, you'll pull up a loop, and then you'll go through all 3 and drop that stitch for row 2. Alright, you'll chain 1 and turn your work. So now for row 3, we're going to do 1 single crochet in the first 3 stitches. One, and you want even tension. Don't try not to pull like too tight, you know. All right, and then 2 in the last. 2 in the last single crochet for row 3. So 1, 2. All right, you'll chain 1 and you'll turn your work. So now for row 4, you're going to single crochet in the first 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 2 in the last. You'll chain 1 and turn your work. And I just, a lot of this is shaping. So we're dropping and picking up and dropping and picking up, but a lot of it is just shaping. Okay, so for row 5, you're going to crochet the first 2 stitches together. Okay? Single crochet the first 2 together. Then 1 single crochet in the next 3. And 2 in the last. 2 single crochet in the last for row 5. You'll chain 1 and turn your work. Alright. So now for row 6, you're going to do 2 single crochet in the first. You're going to do 1 in the next 3 stitches. 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitches. And you're going to crochet the last 2 together for this row, for row 6. Okay, you'll chain 1 and turn your work. Okay, row 7. you're going to crochet the first 2 together for row 7. Okay, row 7, first 2 together. 1 in the next 3. And 2 in the last. 2 single crochets in the last. Chain 1 and turn your work. Alright, so now row 8, we're going to do 2 single crochets in the first, 1 down the row, and 2 in the last for row 8. Chain 1 and turn your work. So for here we're going to drop 2. We're going to do the first 2 together. Do 1 in the next 5 and then 2 in the last. So this is what it looks like. This is what it comes out to looking like. Now what I always tell you is to, when you make 2 of anything, put them up against each other. Make sure they line up, you know, make sure they line up. So this one I made about an hour ago. Okay? And this was the first one, and I did the outline on it. Alright, so now from here, we're going to do our outline on it. Alright, so you can cut off, I have my scissor. And you can get your black yarn. Okay? Alright, that's better. Alright. So now what you're going to do is you're going to do an outline in the black on the eyes. So this is the top of the eye right here. That's going to be the top of the eye. And I actually have like a silly way that I did this. Alright, so you'll start in the corner here. You could start on the back end corner here. Alright, you'll slip stitch and chain 1. That's how we're attaching. Alright, and we're going in that direction. So on this corner here, do 3, well, do 2 more single crochets. You'll count that slip stitch and stuff as a stitch. Okay? And then you'll work 1 single crochet down the row. Now you're not, you're going into the chaining and stuff, so you don't want to go too low, you know, but pretty much like wherever you can get a stitch in, just to keep the shaping of it, which is strange. But this, I worked on these eyes since yesterday actually. So when I came up with this one tonight, I was just like, alright, let's get it done, you know? Alright, so now for here, this was where we first did our loops, our very first chain from the chain 2 that we skipped over. Alright, so do 3 single crochets in this corner here. You want to do 3 single crochets in this corner. Alright, and that's actually the inside of the eye. This is the outside of the eye and this is the inside. Okay, so you'll continue on working your single crochets to make the outline on this piece. And let it be a little looser, you know. You don't want to pull too tight on this, because if you let it looser, it'll look fuller, if that's making sense. Alright, very serious, because I work so hard on this eye. I work so hard on these eyes. Okay, in this corner here, this is the point of the eye, like if Spider-Man wore winged eyeliner. Okay, so on this corner here, this top corner, what you're going to do is do a single crochet, a chain 1, and go back in and do a single crochet, and then just finish up the row on the back end. And these are the easy stitches because this is where you finished off. Alright, so 1 in each down the row. And even if, just a little side note, or a little cheat, you know, because I've done eyes like this, similar to this and stuff, like if you've seen any of my like owls and stuff, my outline, like to me this is like an outline eye, you know, so but if you've seen any of my owl patterns, it's all in the sewing. The pieces could be a little bit off, you know, size wise, or you know, a little shaping and stuff, but how you sew it on, if you got the technique on the sewing, then it's not going to be so noticeable. Alright, so just keep that in mind, and make sure you check your progress as you're sewing, you know, especially when you sew the second one on. You want to make sure. Alright, so from here you'll pull a long tail for sewing. It doesn't have to be too tremendous, and you'll snip off. Alright, so that's our left eye, you know, if you're looking straight on at the piece. So that would be our left eye. Okay, and you'd curve it, you know, you'd sew it in place. So this would be our right eye. So not terrible, a little hard, you know, a little hard. It's like a wacky, I'm calling it wacky, but it's like, you know, with all the increases and the drop and the increase and drop, you know, it's a little confusing. I don't know if I would do that again. So from here, you would snip off, boo boo, thread your yarn needle, line your eyes up, and sew them on. And that's how that'll look. And again, a tip, a trick, whatever you want to call it, a lot of this is sewing it on, because you can have the most wonderful piece, sew it on all crooked, and it won't work out. You know, like it'll be funky. So with that, I'm gonna say, you weave in your ends, you sew your eyes on in place, you weave in your ends, and you're good to go. So if you haven't already, please subscribe. Alright, thank you so much for watching. As always, happy hooking, because it keeps you off the streets and keeps you out of trouble. Look below in the info box and for links for hat sizing, and I have a video up there to help you size hats and fix patterns and stuff to adjust it to yourself. Questions, comments below. Thumbs up if you like. And if you get a chance, check out my new website, www.kbellajoliellcdesigns.com. Okay, I have patterns, I have finished products, I have some handmade jewelry and stuff like that. And I will be back real soon with my next tutorial. And I hope you like making this fun Spider-Man hat. So again, if you're going to make it for a grown-up, go up a hook size, go to an eye. Alright? And I will be back real soon with my next tutorial. And have a super duper great day. Have a happy Halloween if you're making this for Halloween. Enjoy. Take care. Be safe. Bye.